Hello folks, I'm Trev Makes It Easy, the channel where we make learning easy. In this series, Trev on Econ, I'll be taking you through topics you're likely to run into in any introductory course in economics at the college or university level. My goal is to make economics less scary, more approachable, and, if I can, mildly enjoyable. With that being said, let's make it easy. All right, folks, let's get started. We're going to deal with finally the last piece of the trade puzzle, which is we're going to talk about a good trade. Now, you'll notice here I've set up a little question, which says Canada is currently producing 20 syrup and 15 nachos. USA is currently producing 50 syrup and 20 nachos. Show a good trade. This is a very common final type of question regarding trade, especially in testing environments. It can be a little cumbersome to do, so you might not always see it, but it's a good one to have in your back pocket and at least have that exposure to. Now, different people will have different ways of explaining this. I will be upfront right away and say my method is not the fastest, but I think it is probably the safest. And there's probably corners you can cut in this method. I like it because it's going to allow us to do certain checks throughout the way to make sure we're doing the right thing and not having to sort of hope we did the right thing. Now, right away, you'll notice we are effectively at, where's a highlighter? Let's do this one. We are currently at 20 syrup and 15 nachos, which is not going to work here, but we are right here, 20 and 15. Effectively, Canada has just chosen a specific spot to produce that is beneficial to them. Now, I will admit I've chosen these numbers so that this question works. We will talk about situations where these questions don't work, just in case, but that'll be for later in the video. For the US, they're at 15 syrup and 20 nachos. I just happen to keep them in the same row. They don't have to be, but just makes it easier for the question. Now, our setup is going to be, again, it's going to seem overly unnecessary in some parts. I promise you every piece has a purpose. And again, most of those purposes are going to be serving as a check for our work later on. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to set up a little table. And we're going to use this table a few times, so I'm going to make sure to copy it. But we're going to get a table like this. I guess I need one more thing here. And we'll just extend these down a bit. Beauty. So we're going to make a small table where we're going to have Canada. We're going to have the US. We're going to have a total. And then up top, we'll have our two goods. So in this case, S for syrup and N for nachos. Now I'm going to copy this because we're going to need this a few more times today. So this first table is going to be what we call our before trade table. This is the one that I think most people think is sort of unnecessary, but again, trust the process. The before trade table is the easiest one to fill out. Effectively, what we're going to do is we're going to take the information in the question and put it into the relevant spots. So very simply, for Canada, they're doing 20 syrup, so we'll put 20 in here. They're doing 15 nachos. And then the US is doing 50 and 20, right? The reason I like doing this is it allows us to take the words out of the word problem. In my experience, students don't do very well with word problems, and being able to strip the useless information out and really focus it in a format that is not a word problem tends to help students a lot. Last thing we need to do is quickly just take the totals. So 20 plus 50 is 70. And 15 plus 20 is 35, right? Very simple table. Again, arguably unnecessary, but you'll see what we're going to do with it. Now, the second table is also fairly straightforward, thankfully. This table is going to be our specialization table. And let's actually just throw on the numbers 1 here to remind ourselves we did this first, and a 2 here because we did this second. So the specialization table is going to do a couple things for us. So we haven't talked about it yet, but specialization is just the idea that you focus on one area of expertise, right? And it turns out specialization is very useful because what this allows you to do is you get really good at something. When you're really good at something, you're going to make less mistakes, you're going to do a better job, provide better quality, probably do it faster, all right? And all of these qualities make for greater efficiency in most cases. This is why our education system is set up the way it is, right? Most of you are in a business program of some sort, I assume, which means that you're probably taking mostly courses surrounding business, maybe the odd course that isn't. But why they structure like that is they want you to get really good at that field. It's not beneficial to you to take like accounting, gym, fine art, construction, and I don't know, home economics, right? All those things might give you a little exposure to everything, but you're not going to be great at any of them. You're going to be okay. It's just kind of the expert versus the jack of all trades. Jack of all trades sounds good, but I would probably rather be the expert because I'm more sought after. I just do a better job in my thing, and then I'm able to outsource to other people. In fact, what we're going to do is we are going to specialize in whatever we have comparative advantage in. The whole purpose of comparative advantage was to find, well, what are we good at? And it turns out that whatever we're good at, we're going to focus on doing just that thing. Now, this is going to seem a little extreme, but I promise you by the end of the video, this is going to work out in a cool way. I mean, cool for economics, but a kind of cool way. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the table again. Now, this time, we are going to change up where we're at. So for Canada, down here I wrote, Canada has comparative advantage in nachos. If you don't know why, make sure you go watch part 2, which is the video before this. But Canada is really good at nachos, so they're going to be up here now. And they're just going to focus on making what they're good at, which is in this case nachos. So Canada is going to make no syrup, but they're going to dedicate all their resources to nachos. Right? The US, remember with comparative advantage, you can only have comparative advantage in one thing. So if Canada is better at nachos, that must mean the US is better at syrup, which was down here. Right? So 75 and 0. Now again, we're going to quickly take our totals. Okay, so we've got 75 here, and we've got 45 here. Now, I'm going to make a big warning here. You're not likely to run into this, but as a brief warning, let's make sure this is going to show up. All right. If either of these totals is less than the totals in before trade table, you cannot do the question. Okay, it's not going to work. Just make that a little bigger, throw it up there as our nice little warning, right? I rarely see this occur, but it does in some cases. I chose 20 and 15 and 50 and 20 in this question so that the question will work. There are situations where if I had picked different starting points, this equation would not have worked as nicely. Okay, sometimes not really at all. You're unlikely to run into this, but I like to warn students just in case, because at the end of the day, sometimes they like to throw curveballs and you need to at least be aware of them. So it's a very important thing to check this before you move on. Now, in our case, 75 is bigger than 70, so it's good. 45 is bigger than 35, so we're good. It could have been the same number, it just can't be less than. Okay, so we could add 70 or 35, that would have been fine. But having even like 69 or 34 would have been a huge problem, and we just couldn't have done this question. So those are the first two tables. And at this point, we haven't actually really done anything. We've basically just pulled numbers from different spots and just tried to combine them. So we have one last step, and that is to now make the trade. There, let's go back to our nice blue. So table 3, after trade table, right? This is where we have to do some work. So first off, what is a good trade? All right. And it's a very simple premise. Both countries must have the same or more of each good than they did in before trade table. Okay, that's literally the only rule we have. So Canada has to have at least 20 or more syrup. Canada has to have at least 15 or more nachos, at least 50 or more syrup for US, at least 20 or more syrup for, nachos for the US. All right. Now, what we're going to do is we are going to divide up the totals in specialization to make this happen. Oops. Right? So let's start with the 75. Okay, I'm going to show you an incorrect answer first to prove a point. So 75, all right, let's say we say, oh, okay, 75, cool. I'm going to give, I don't know, let's give 60 to the US and 15 to Canada, right? Well, that's all 75. We've split up the 75 that we have to split up. We gave 15 here, 60 here, and then we check. Well, 60 is the same or better than 50, so that's a thumbs up. 15 is less than 20. This is not going to work, so this is an incorrect answer. So what we can do is we just have to try different combinations. It's not that tricky once you kind of get the rule in your head. But for example, I could go, 25 and 50. This is perfectly fine, right? Because A, it adds up to 75, which is good. B, 25 is the same or better than 20. 50 is the same or better than 50. So both of those fit. All right. You could do different combinations. You could have done 24 and 51. You could have done 23 and 52. As long as the end result here totals to here and is same or greater than here. All right. I'm going to use this one just because it's a little easier. We're going to do the same thing for nachos. This would be a great time to pause the video and try it yourself and come up with an answer. But we're going to do it together as well. So we need to split up 45 nachos. And it has to be at least 15 for Canada, at least 20 for the US. Again, I'm just going to pick one that works. I'm going to go with 20 and 25, right? Again, quick check. Well, what's their total? 45. That matches. Perfect. Then we go to the individual checks. Is 20 bigger or equal to 15? Yes. Is 25 bigger or equal to 20? Yes. This is a perfectly good trade. Both countries have the same or more of each good than they did back here. All right. That means we've done something correctly. Now the big reveal. Let's go plot some of these points. So before we plot our points, let's just go back and see where they had us in the question. So for Canada, they had us at 20 syrup. So I don't know, maybe like around here. It's a very tiny 20. 20 and 15. right? We were on our PPF, which again, from, several lessons ago now, we know being on the PPF is a good thing. For the US, they had us at 50 and 20. So 50, I don't know, somewhere up here, let's say. So we got 20 here and 50. Again, on the PPF, we're perfectly happy with that. Now we're going to do something interesting. Let's plot the points we have after trade. Okay, let's do green because it's a good thing. Canada is at 25 syrup. Sorry, I don't know why I blanked on that. 25 syrup and 20. Well, 25 and 20, that's somewhere out here. That's impressive. What about the US? Well, the US is still at 50, but they're now at 25, so they are out here. This is our big reveal. Our big reveal is just that. We normally are not allowed to go past our PPF, but let's clear up some room here. A good trade allows us to consume beyond our PPF, right? You'll notice here I said the word consume. We're not making more than our PPF, okay? We don't have like extra production. All we've done is done things more efficiently by specializing. We've traded off the excess, and it's made both of us better off. We don't have magically more resources. We're just using what we do have more effectively and leveraging our allies to get us to where we need to be, which again is beyond our PPF. This is much easier to do than figuring out economic growth. We talked in the PPF example that you could grow with economics and, more capital, more labor, more technology, whatever the case is, and push your PPF outwards. That is not an easy thing to do. All right. That takes a lot of time, a lot of investment, a lot of discovery. Trade, on the other hand, can be done much more quickly, at least comparatively, and it has a similar result. All right. Now, trade is pretty much universally, from an economic standpoint, agreed to be a good thing. Now, I will say there are some stipulations to this in the real world. Number one, in this example, we used syrup and nachos, which are not that integral to life, unless you really like these two things, I guess. So, as long as Canada and the USA are happy with each other, they can trade freely and this relationship continues and life is good. However, what happens if relationships break down between these two countries? Well, now Canada is all invested in nachos, USA is all invested in syrup, and if they can no longer trade for the other thing, well, now they have a problem. Because Canada maybe has lost all their infrastructure for syrup, the USA has lost all their infrastructure for nachos, and now they're scrambling to rebuild. All right? Again, in nachos and syrup, this is not the biggest issue, right? But let's change the standards. Let's say instead of syrup and nachos, this is medicine and food. One country makes all the medicine, one country makes all the food, and they trade. What happens if that trade breaks down? If you can't access food or medicine and only have one of the other, you could be in a serious problem. There is a movement or an idea now that perhaps it is a good idea to have industries that are core to your nation, that you produce in-house. Things like food, medicine, things that you need to be self-reliant. All right. I don't care where my t-shirt comes from. I don't care where, probably even my electronics come from. But if trade breaks down, I still want to have that safety that I have food in my country. I have medicine in my country. I have shelter in my country. These kinds of basic things. All right. Again, that's more of an advanced topic, but it's a good way of showing that what we learn in the classroom does have some asterisks on it saying, well, in reality, we need to be maybe a little more careful. So while trade is an amazing thing, we have to be careful of certain small things. All right. So with that in mind, that finally wraps up trade. I appreciate you sticking around for all three parts. The next time we're digging into demand and supply, which is a crucial learning piece for all economics students. I assume it's going to be more than three pieces, so just bear with me on that one, but it's one you're going to want to stick around and watch. Till next time, bye-bye. Well, folks, that wraps up another lesson for today. I hope it was helpful. If you found the video valuable, please make sure to like and subscribe. And if you have any questions about the content or requests for other topics or subjects you'd like me to cover, please leave a comment below. Until next time, keep learning and make it easy.